Don't forget to follow us on Instagram, Facebook, YouTube, and Twitter. Just pop in the Flixters podcast.
And this is quite a momentous occasion, Divaldo.
Mm-hmm. It is.
Couple of things. First of all, I want to say Happy New Year to you, bro.
Happy New Year. What is it? How do you say it? Feliz, Anos Nuevo. No, that's not right, is it?
If you said it like that in Latin America, they'd be like, hey, bro, Anos,
is
like
it?
anus.
Oh.
You know what? I always used to get that wrong. It's años. Yeah, años. Mate, you know what? I still do it. I take the piss. I still say anos. And like, if people are like, what? Like, you know, what you do? But yeah, no, Feliz Año Nuevo. Divaldo. So, so how was the big New Year's Eve thing?
It wasn't that big. I'm getting on now, so I calmed it down a bit. Went to see a football match, chilled with the family for a bit, then with the missus. Just sort of stayed in, opened up a little bottle, had a bit of food, and just chilled. Really, that was it.
That's the way it is. That's
really
the way it's got to be. Flixters, what about you? Yeah, what about you? What did you do? Let us know. Get in touch with us on Instagram. We're wishing you a fantastic 2023. We've got this episode for you, this little episode. We want to do kind of like a recap, the best of 2022, really.
Yeah.
And we've got a selection of movies that we want to speak about, just to kind of remind us of just how good they were. Maybe you think that you might not think that they were good, but I mean, they were decent for us anyway. And we just thought we'd kind of speak about them. But before we do any of all of that, Deval, our shout out for 2023 goes to.
Shout outs go to many of our supporters, many of our Flixters, our family that have been following us, supporting us, and contributing throughout the year of 2022. So I just want to make sure we don't forget everyone. There's probably so many more to mention, but just a handful of names I want to just shout out today. So first one goes out to, as always, Ciel Noir 3. I spoke to her on Instagram, and she actually wants to come on the show. So we're going to make that happen at some point. But yeah, go check out her page. That we always mention her positivity, energy, interaction as well. Many people on Instagram, they chat, or they don't chat, I should say. But actually, Ciel Noir does chat and really does engage. So go check her out. Zakroff, our very own Zakroff. We're going to get him on the show. We spoke to him just yesterday. Happy New Year to you as well.
Happy New Year,
is going to come on the show. I don't know what we're going to talk about, what film it's going to be, but we're going to make it happen. So Zakroff, Happy New Year to you. Emmanuel, our very own Emmanuel, who is part of the Flixters.
Yep.
He's coming back on the show at some point. Yeah, exactly. He's one of us. So, thank you for him for supporting throughout the year as well. The 5Fs Telegram channel. Go check out their channel on Telegram. The 5Fs, you know what it stands for? Fun, food, fitness, faith, and family.
That's a great dubbing. All the Fs that you need.
All the Fs that you need.
All the Fs that you need. One more.
A big shout out to all our friends and family as well for supporting us as well throughout the year. Many people didn't get to mention. Ambi, we didn't get to mention, but big shout out to her as well, and everyone else that follows us and supports us. So yeah, big shout out to all of you.
Huge shout out. Thanks for that. So listen, look, let's get into the show. There's a couple of things that we want to speak about, and this one just makes me laugh. So you know how kind of politicians, maybe celebrities, or kind of even like royalty, they want to get onto the whole kind of streaming platform service, or a streaming platform service. And the one that kind of seems to be the go-to is Netflix, right? Because apparently, they've got deep pockets and they're able to pump in a lot of kind of money into projects. Recently, you spoke about Deval, Harry and Meghan. I ended up watching it. Yeah, really interesting take on kind of things that transpired. And but another big kind of powerful kind of couple, I would say, the Obamas.
The
Um,
Obamas. Yep.
Now, they've already done a few projects with Netflix, right? Because we've
Yeah.
kind of seen a few things going on. I know Michelle Obama's done a few things. So they kind of got, I know he's done books, but he's doing something a bit different now, which might come as a bit of a surprise to our listeners.
Yes. So he's actually got a sort of Netflix production company, Netflix partnership going on, and he is in the throes of developing a Netflix movie. And you're thinking, what's that Bahama got to do with movies? Okay, he
Yeah.
maybe he likes his movies. I understand he likes
Political
movies and
movie.
TV shows, but he's actually developing a movie about alien abduction. So that's I mean, and let me ask you, do you believe in UFOs and aliens? Do you
Oh,
believe
yeah.
in that? You do?
I do. I do,
Oh,
Matt.
okay.
Listen,
Okay.
when I was a kid,
Oh.
I still remember this to this day, right? Listen, I've got this book. It's called Above Top Secret, this book, right?
Mm.
Devaldo. And you know that whole kind of Men in Black, Will Smith thing,
Yes, yes.
right? So the Men in Black, I'm telling you, man, they're out there somewhere. And in this book, I think it's in my parents' house, like back home. They still kept this book, and in this book, man, the
Mm.
the the kind of the stories and the kind of the cover-ups and all this sort of stuff. So it really, really influenced me in that kind of 12 to kind of 15, age group. And it's still stuck with me, man. I'm
Mm.
I don't know, I'm in the camp of, yeah, and I remember, oh mate, seriously, I was in the south of Chile, and this is no joke. I think I mentioned this before on the show.
Damn.
We saw a UFO. I'm telling you,
You
it was
saw
a
a UFO. What did it
I'm
look like?
100%. It was basically, so we were doing this tour. We were on a lake somewhere in the south of
Mm.
Chile, and then I'm like, everyone, like literally, I had to stop everyone on the tour, and I was like, please
Mm-mm.
stop listening to the tour guide and look up into the sky and tell me what that is. And everyone's looking, everyone's going, because it's just traveling,
Mm.
traveling, traveling. It stops and then it moves and goes into a different direction and then it disappears. Mate, that is
Mm.
no conventional
What kind of shape was
aircraft.
it? Like what the
It was like it was kind of like a bit blurry. It was kind of
Okay.
like the light around it was kind of blurry, but it was what it was. It was more to do with the maneuver of the object.
Oh, okay. Okay. Okay.
So it moved, it kind of changed direction, it moved again, and then it just
Too quick
disappeared.
for any
Too quick.
conventional aircraft. Mm.
Yeah. And
Damn.
everyone, and this was like 2010. So everyone on that was like, oh my God, we don't know what we've just seen. We don't know what we've just seen. So for me personally,
Mm.
I do believe it, but I know a lot of people out there are like, ah, it's just bullshit.
Well, yeah. I mean, before we talk about the film, I definitely I believe, just like
Mm,
they're saying in the X Files, I believe, and
yeah,
it's something that I think just by the numbers, sheer numbers of the possible life in the universe. Look at all the stars that are out there, and all the
yeah,
stars that are out. Stars that we see in the sky are suns. That's just in our galaxy. Think of the planets that could be, or moons that could be around those suns that
mm,
could harbor life, but at the same time, the technology that they could have, it could be advanced or not as advanced. But the only question I have is, how can they get here physically from so far away? And that's something that, to my comprehension, I think, it's just something is crazy to think about. But that's only my
mm,
comprehension, and you've got to think outside of human comprehension, because they might
yeah,
have some next level technology. So yeah, so
yeah.
that's
Who
what
knows?
that's what I believe as well. But yeah, Obama, he probably believes it. He's making a film about alien abduction. It's going to have a black couple from the 1960s.
Mm.
A couple called it's called the Hill abduction, and it's a very famous story in America. Barney and Betty Hill, and I don't mean from the Flintstones, yeah, but Barney, Betty, but yeah. So they were like a couple in the 60s, and they were abducted, and this is going to go all into that.
Yeah,
So it's going to be
because
interesting. I'm not sure.
plus you never hear it from that perspective.
Yeah,
All the
exactly,
movies that I remember
exactly.
seeing, Fire in the Sky,
Oh, Fire in the Sky, good
Communion.
film. Mm.
Yeah, that scared the shit out of me. Communion scared the
Because
shit out
aliens
of
are going to
me.
want to take everyone. They're going to take everyone from every background because if they're here on
Yeah.
safari, they want to take a sample of every.
Sample of everyone.
Exactly, not just white people, So, so yeah, that's going to be interesting to see. So we'll see what happens with that one. I'm going to watch it for
Uh,
sure.
yeah, that looks really, really good actually. All right, let's move on to this next one. Now, yeah, we've kind of had debates on kind of, the Marvel universe and kind of the DC universe. And for me, over the
Mm,
last kind of 10 years, yeah, man, there is no competition, right? It's just kind of been Marvel. Yeah, Marvel, they have produced some duds. Let's not kind of, over the last couple of years, they have kind of produced some ones which are being a bit boring. Thor: Love and
mm.
Thunder just recently. Devour, didn't have a great time watching that. Eternals was, not up to standard.
Bland, yeah.
Exactly, bland. So, who's got the bigger pull, Devour, out of the two kind of big
Well, it has to be
studios?
Marvel, like you say. Marvel have let us down recently, but overall, when you're talking about the movie world, Marvel has got more bums on seats and got more people
Mm.
excited. And yeah, Marvel is the way, really. I'll have to say
All
when
right,
it comes to
okay.
movies.
All right. So who do you reckon kind of like, if you were going for like pure actors,
Mm.
someone like Robert De Niro, hypothetically speaking, who would a Robert De Niro go for? Marvel, or even though he probably hates them, but who
I
would he go for?
well, I could see him. Well, he's done it. He's gone for DC in the Joker, in Joker. Sorry,
Oh shit,
remember?
yes.
Yeah. So
Oh
I
my
think
god.
I think DC. I think he would go for DC still. It's darker and
Yeah.
a bit more grounded, maybe less flying around and all that kind of shit with Marvel.
Yeah,
So,
yeah, that's true. All right. What about some of your other actors? People like, I don't know, Affleck.
well, yeah. So he's done both. He's one of the small crop of actors that have done both. He's done the Marvel with Daredevil, and he's
Mm,
done DC with Batman.
yeah.
So someone like him, he's got taste of both sides. But from what we hear, he's been tempted to come back to Marvel, and in what shape or form that's going to be. Whether it's going to be, well, I did hear it's on the grapevine that it's going to be a villain. Not
Mm,
sure who that villain could be. Not sure if it's going to be a main villain or like a small villain. I really don't know,
yeah.
but
Yeah.
yeah, interesting.
It's interesting stuff because listen, look, I think he got his fingers burnt with the whole Batman thing.
Hmm.
Um, it maybe kind of the experience changed him and he thought, screw this, like I can't kind of like, give myself to that role.
Mm,
And he might be doing a Christian Bale. Christian Bale obviously did
mm,
Batman and then he became a villain for Marvel in Thor: Love and
exactly.
Thunder.
Yep. Yep.
So they could go that route. But
Yep.
Matt, you listen, look, I mean, villains for me, they have to be special. Thanos is
Got
a
to be.
special villain.
Hmm.
Kang the Conqueror, I think he's gonna be a special villain,
Yeah.
and like
Yeah.
Jonathan Majors is gonna do something good. So if Ben Affleck is gonna do a
Mm,
villain, he's got man, come on,
mm,
you gotta do it right. You can't just do it willy nilly, man. Because
yeah.
Gore the God Butcher, it wasn't.
Mm-mm,
I got to
mm-mm.
say, man, it just wasn't a compelling villain.
Most Marvel villains are not compelling. I can only name three, which is Thanos, Killmonger, and Loki. And
Oh
Loki, I
yeah,
guess, at the moment he's kind of half and
in
half in it.
between.
But raw villains,
Killmonger's
Loki,
brilliant.
sorry, Killmonger and Thanos. Yeah, and Killmonger didn't even really get much screen time compared to Thanos, obviously. But still, you
Yeah.
just remember them because what they stood for was bad stuff. But you can kind of you can kind of
Yeah, you
see where they
kind
were
of
going.
justify a little bit of where it's all going. Yeah, man. So listen, look, if hopefully, if these actors are going to be joining kind of like
Mm.
Marvel and stuff, then they got to kind of pick the decent characters. But having said that, maybe James Gunn could pull something out the bag. I mean, what decent villains have DC got?
Mm. DC have got what villains have they got? I mean, we've seen the what's his name,
Obviously,
Superman's one. We've seen General Zod
Zod.
and all that. We ain't
Yeah,
seen the
there's
Brainiac.
Jokers.
I don't think we've seen the
Mm,
Brainiac on the big screen. Uh, mm, yeah, we ain't seen the Riddler yet on the big screen. Well, not recently. We saw the joke version, of
yeah.
Jim Carrey and stuff. But yeah, I mean DC. Off the top of my head, I mean you still got the dark side, kind of Apocalypse and those sorts of
Mm,
people that could be villains. But the more grounded, Earth-based ones, So even my mind is because I'm not as
as
versed
versed
with
in.
DC, but I know DC comics and DC like super fans. They know that DC have got some really good characters and content. It's just translating it onto the screen
Yeah.
hasn't been that successful. But DC is actually probably the better, more serious comic book.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Okay, so we'll see what happens with that one. Maybe Ben Affleck coming back, it could be a good thing, but who knows? We'll just have to wait and see.
Mm,
2023 awaits us. All right. Okay. Let's do this, Devado. So this is like, a great little thing that we're doing here. I love doing this. It's kind of a look back on 2022. We saw like
mm,
devout. There were movies that I watched throughout 22 that I didn't even get a chance to speak about. Some were great, some were just like really terrible. Some were I just put on a Friday night. I just thought, I just want to watch something. But we kind of have a whole host of movies that we watched over, the past year.
yeah.
And what we're going to do is we're going to speak about some of those movies, just some of them, not all of them. You'll have to go back and kind of listen to some of our podcasts for something specific. But let's go through these. And the first one that we've got on here, I mean, when I watched this movie, Devout, my mind was blown. I was
Mm,
like, this is an original story from two guys who I think their background was in music videos. They kind of, do you remember that song? Turn Down for What?
uh, yeah, that's
Dun, dun,
oh, his
dun,
name.
dun,
What's
for
his
what?
name?
This is a
Ah, shit.
crazy video.
Yeah, yeah,
This
yeah,
guy, he's like mashing shit up in his room and stuff. He's jumping all over the place. Those guys are behind this movie, Everything, Everywhere, All at Once.
yeah.
And title, Devout. When we first saw the trailer, when we first heard about the whole kind of story, the gist of it, Michelle Yeoh, we were like, okay, this is interesting. And the trailer was absolutely fantastic. We went out, we watched the movie. And how do you describe it?
It is the title is onomatopoeic. Is that the word?
Mm,
If it was
mm,
possible, like the title describes the movie such to a T that it's crazy, and it's just what you get on the tin is what you get in a film, and it's so hard
yeah.
to imagine writing a film, directing a film, and wanting that, seeing it on paper and thinking, how can you put this on screen? That's the hard thing, and they did it
Yeah.
with a smaller budget, with no names, pretty much.
Yep.
Not that they're no names. Don't get me wrong, but
Yeah.
people didn't really know these people, like
Yeah.
like Marvel, and they done a better job of Multiverse of Madness,
Multiverse.
because this
Yes.
was the Multiverse of Madness. Everything, everywhere, all at once. Michelle Yao, who else was in it? What's his name?
Kid
The one
from
from
Goonies.
the Goonies, yeah. Michelle Yao, yeah. Kei Hun Kwan was in it. Jamie Lee
Yes.
Curtis.
Yep.
I mean, the film is just a gangster film. It's the sort of film you got to watch. Don't watch it again for like 6 months and then go back to it, because it just keeps you.
Mm,
Just the craziness of going for different multiverses, and her
yeah.
being able to learn things and take it with her to another multiverse. And Michelle Yao, she's timeless. I mean, we saw her first time I saw her was
Ah,
Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon in
yeah.
1999, 2000.
Yeah.
And we're talking 22 years later,
She's
she's
still
still
kicking ass.
gangster. How is that?
She's she's still man. She's still the one. Um, Talking of her, she's in. I didn't get a chance to see this, but the Witcher. There was a
Like
3-part or a
Origin.
four.
Yes.
Yeah, the
Yeah.
Origin, and apparently she is supposed to be decent.
Gangster again. She's been in Star Trek. She's been in all kinds of
Yes,
shit. It's
she's
like it's
really really
Benjamin
great.
Button. Like she should be winding down. She's just hyping it up.
She's going further. But like, in terms of kind of like, what type of movie it is, it's kind of everything. There's sci-fi, like Devel mentioned, like, there's multiversal stuff going on there. There's drama, there's love, there's this kind of, what I got out of it was this person who's trapped, who wants to kind of be released,
Mm,
who's trying to kind of have a relationship with the people around her husband, her daughter, her father. There's all this stuff going on around, and she's been thrown into this kind of weird kind of war battle that's been going on, and traveling from different universes, and she's actually in touch with those different versions of herself.
hmm
Man, seriously, you and I, we kind of had this conversation, and we said, oh, they're going to get tapped up from Marvel or something. And the thing is, apparently, they were tapped to film something from Marvel. They said
Mm,
no because they were working on this.
I'm glad they said
So
no because they had the freedom of this. Might constrain them, but this they had freedom, and it shows with good directors, good creativity, good freedom, no shackles. Come on,
mm,
man. Yeah, that's a
oh
top
man,
film. Top film.
that is a
Must
top
watch.
film.
I think it's on Amazon, Amazon Prime, I
I was just
think.
about to say it's on
Yeah.
Amazon Prime. If you haven't seen it, you should be going out and you should be watching that one. So
Mm,
do us a favor. That's a highly recommended movie. Go check it out. Now, the next movie, Devout. I know you've been speaking about it. I know Emmanuel's spoken about it. There's been reviews. I just haven't had a
mm,
chance to watch this. I know it's out there. This is called Triangle of Sadness,
mm.
and everywhere I turn, every side of the triangle, Devout, people are just basically saying that the movie is deep, there's layers to it. There's kind of, some people are saying that they watched it on the second viewing and the third viewing. They
Oh.
got kind of like different things out of it.
Oh, okay.
So, but listen, yeah. So tell us about this one again. And this was a recent Flixters film review.
This was recent, yeah. So this came out, I think, like August, September, or something like that. And Triangle of Sadness. This one stars Woody Harrelson, among Tobias Thorwood, Harrison Dixon, Charles Dean. A lot of these names you wouldn't have heard of, and that doesn't matter. Some of the best films have got actors and directors that you just don't know.
Don't even
But
know
this
that.
is, I want to say, the director's called Ruben Ostlund. I want to say that's Norwegian. Let me see if that's correct. I might be wrong.
Mm.
Swedish. So yeah, Swedish
Okay,
director.
close. Yeah.
And this film is about. It talks a lot about social commentary in a way that it looks at gender roles. It looks at sort of the rich and the poor. It looks at image, how we perceive things, all these things that are in society in just every walk of life. It throws it onto a boat and
Mm.
just says it sort of pushes it and sees what happens. It's just looking to see what happens with
Mm.
society on that boat. And the way things happen is just from the get go in this movie is a scene in a restaurant that's so uncomfortable that it's wicked. For
Yeah.
me, that was the start of the movie. I was like, yeah, this film is serious.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
then
I
from
love that.
there, you just see different situations, conversations, and it just carries on right to the end. This film is a 9 out of 10 easily. It's just a good,
Mm.
good film. Good
Yeah,
film.
yeah, yeah, yeah. So many people have been talking about this, and it's kind of like what you said about it doesn't have to be the best movies. They don't have to have like huge budgets, right?
No,
Because
no.
Woody Harrelson is probably the bigger, he's the biggest star out of the movie, right? Or is there anyone
Yeah,
else
he's
tucked away
he's
in
the
there?
most recognizable big star in the Western sort of American English kind of context. The
Mm,
box office for this one it cost 10 million euros to make, estimated,
wow.
and worldwide so far it's grossed 17 million dollars gross so far. So it's made back its money.
Mm,
This sort of film these sorts of films are not even great for the box office because people aren't going to
no.
go in their droves to see this, but they really should. But as
Yeah,
long as it's made his money back, I'm happy. But this
yeah.
film here, in 10, 20 years' time, we'll be mentioning this film.
Yeah, 100%, 100%. Go check that one out, folks. You can get it out. It's out there.
Mm.
What I'm finding is a lot of these movies now, the VOD, the video on
Yeah,
demand, kind of
yeah,
the
yeah,
gap is closing, isn't it? Like there's a cinema
yeah,
release, and then give it a couple of months, and basically, it's out there. So go check
yeah.
that out. Now, next movie that we're going to speak about, again, huge, massive movie for 2022. Remember, you got to remember 2022. People, we're coming out of kind of the pandemic and everything, and it's
Mm.
a movie that should have come out, way before. They delayed it. It's a Tom Cruise movie. I think what it is, listener. It's Top Gun Maverick. And Devour, man, I was really, really surprised because I thought, how are they going to kind of link up from the 80s movie, still kind of keep that vibe going? Tom Cruise is a different person to what he was from the 80s. And he's been making different types of movies since that time. But man, they managed to pull it off. So, definitely it's got speed in there, and it was a movie which I was like, man, I really had a good time watching it. What did you
Yeah,
make of
me
it?
too. I went cinema twice. I watched it in regular
Mm,
sort of viewing, and then I watched it in 4DX, which you
wow.
sit down, and the seats rumble, they move around as if you're in the plane. And for me, it's probably the best film I've seen in that setting.
Mm,
And for me, this film, how long was it? It was like 2 hours. I think the film was just under 2 hours long,
yeah.
and it kind of follows on from the first Top Gun, which came out in the 80s. Yeah, I don't,
Yeah.
80s, yeah,
1984.
80s, 1984. And this one here, I mean, Tom Cruise, I don't know how old he is, but he's obviously timeless. Just does what he wants when he wants to do it. Jumps off
Yeah.
cliffs and all that kind of shit. Jennifer Connelly's in it. Miles Teller. You got Val Kilmer, who's actually unwell in real
Yes.
life, and they really show that in the film, but they handle it quite well, I would say actually.
Mm,
John Hamm's in it. Charles Parnell's in it. You got all these good actors in it, and they really show how his character has moved, or how he's sort of moved on, or maybe how he hasn't moved on from the
mm,
first movie into this one. He becomes a flight coach, and he's trying to teach new Top Guns who are the best in their class. But the thing that I think about this film that that really makes it stand out is the fact that it knows what it is and it does what it is. It's an
yeah.
action film about jets and planes, and you get all of that. Doesn't take itself too seriously,
Seriously. Yeah.
and the action is wicked in it. Just the sound effects, the movement, that is wicked. But one thing I really respect about this film is how they handle the enemy. You know,
Mm,
in too many films these days, especially the American-made films, the enemies
yeah.
are always stereotypically
Yeah. Yeah.
the other. And
Yeah.
when I say the other, I'm talking about the Arabs,
Arabs, brown
which
people. Like,
basically exactly
yeah.
Muslims and brown, exactly
Yeah.
Muslim brown people, the Russians,
Yeah.
or someone, just others basically. With this film, the enemy is no one. It's
Mm,
someone, but no one. There is no race. There's no nationality. That is not important, and that's what this film. It's all about the mission. So
yeah.
for me, that for this film gets icing on the cake because of that.
Yeah.
I respect it even more.
It's got 8.4 on IMDb, and look, check this out. Look, the budget
Mm.
was apparently, according to this, 170 million. It's taken at the box office 1.4 billion bucks. That's
4x,
incredible.
yeah,
Exactly.
4x, as they
Trust
say.
me, man. That, as they say. And listen,
Cats
look,
mind 4x for anything
4X
else.
wouldn't give it. Yeah, do you remember that one? It's just like, he obviously, for me, when I think of Tom Cruise, I think Mission Impossible, because for the
Yeah,
last 10 years, that's what he's been doing. And
yeah,
I've
yeah.
always thought to myself, man, he's a great actor. He can go off and he can do other stuff. And this proves that he can do other stuff. I remember he did, what was that? Not time travel, but a kind of, with Emily Blunt. Remember he did that one?
Oh yeah, Eat, Die, Repeat. What's it called again?
Yes.
Edge of Tomorrow. That's a good
Edge of
film.
Tomorrow. I like that. I
That's a
really
good
like that movie
film.
as well.
Yeah,
So,
it's a good
he
film.
obviously Tom Cruise, he's great at doing action, like, and he can also do the dramatic as well. So, wholeheartedly agree with it. Whatever you say about this movie. If you haven't seen it, listener, go check it out. I think you can get it on. No, it's not. It's on Paramount Plus now. I think
Yes, yes,
it's
yeah,
out.
yeah, yeah. Mm.
So obviously nothing compared to watching it in the cinema. So
Yeah,
if you
yeah.
can
Go
catch the
cinema if
cinema,
you
watch
can.
it. Go
Mm.
watch it. Now, listen, we're going to kind of change things up a bit now. We're going to not speak about a film in the cinema. We're going to speak about a TV show. Remember, the hype surrounding this show was huge, Deval. We'd waited a fair number of years, really, because
Mm.
Game of Thrones for us, I remember when we used to work in the office together, that was the one thing, me, you, Kay,
Yeah.
Marcel, like
Well, it was Game of
anyone
Thrones Tuesday. The day after Monday, we'll
exactly,
come in and we'll spend 15 minutes talking about what we just saw before we went to work, before we
exactly.
started.
So, like, everyone who's everyone in that office, they had an opinion of, like, who's going to go next and what's going on. So the hype when that whole ended, we were like, shit, okay, it's ended controversially. Let's just put it that way. Some people liked it, some people didn't like it. I was a bit kind of like, right, okay. And then we started to hear about, okay, so now there's going to be a spin-off. So what's this going to be? What's it going to be about? It's going to take
Mm,
place before the whole Game of Thrones thing. And then when it finally arrived in 2022, man,
mm.
really, really great show. And remember, it's just the first season, Deval.
Yeah. And it's really hard when you've got high expectations. When Game of Thrones came out, no one knew shit. I
No.
mean, we were watching Spartacus before, a year before that,
Yeah,
and that was
that's true.
good. when Game of Thrones came out, we didn't know shit, and it slow build up, but it just took over the world.
Evolved.
This
Yeah.
one has expectations, and that makes it harder. And so for me, the reason why this is on the list is because expectations are high, and I feel like it met the expectations at a good level.
Mm.
It's not going to come and be the best thing since sliced bread, but it did. It wasn't shit. It wasn't even bad. It was really good quality,
Yeah.
and it leaves you wanting more. Don't forget that there was another Game of Thrones prequel that they filmed the pilot for
Yeah.
and never made it.
They scrapped it.
Yeah, never made it. So
And
it
that
can
that
go
had
bad.
Naomi Watts in it apparently.
Yes, yeah, 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 exactly.
So how shit do you think
Mm.
that was? Or did they just like
They
HBO were thinking,
didn't want to risk it. They didn't want to risk it
yeah,
because it's reputational risk is too. You know what I mean? It had to blow it out the water, or it can't be average. It had to be really good. And
hmm.
yeah,
And what they're saying now is, Deval, I'm not sure if you heard about this from the grapevine, but Jon Snow, they're
mm,
basically, I think you might have even mentioned it. They're talking about obviously having another show where Jon Snow is back. And because remember, someone's got to be looking after shit beyond the wall.
yeah, 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 yeah.
And remember, he left. So they left
Mm,
Game of Thrones in such a way where he's still alive, Arya's alive, and everything. But I think he's a character that people still want to know, like what happened to Jon Snow.
mm,
So that could
mm,
happen still,
yeah,
Deval.
yeah. Yeah, and I'd be interested to find out as well because there's a lot
Mm,
beyond the wall. We really got to touch. Beyond the wall is, I think they said it's almost the same size as the whole north or something. It's big. It's like there's a
mm,
lot going on.
huge,
So
lot going on.
all
But
kinds of
this one,
clans.
yeah, bringing it back to the House of Dragon. I mean, it's got it all right. It's got obviously the sex in there. It's got the
Yeah.
kind of the controversy in there. It's got the murder in there. Like the death toll is in there. It's got dragons. It's like, what more do you want?
Exactly.
Like, seriously,
What
man.
more do you want? Fannies and
Yeah.
dicks, in it. It's got that too. So
It's got all of it, is it? And it's got the stuff. It's got the awkward stuff in there as well. It's like the
yeah.
relationship, like the incestual stuff as well, where people in from Game of Thrones, they were like, "Oh man, is this really appropriate?" This stuff has got it,
Mm, mm,
like
mm.
as well, a hell of a lot. And you mentioned there's a YouTube channel that kind of goes through the kind of the history of the Targaryens, right?
Yeah, yeah. That's. I keep telling people how good it is, yeah, and people don't believe me. Honestly, that YouTube is animation. It's like an audio book. It
Yeah,
is so
deep.
good.
Yeah.
It's just, man.
Yeah, there's layers. There's layers to that family that
Mm,
we won't even obviously cover, like in these shows. But listen, look, if you haven't seen House of the Dragon, go check it out. It's on like HBO if you're in the US. If
mm.
you're in the UK, it's on Sky, right?
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. And if but here in Australia, it's on Binge and like
Okay.
other platforms as well. So go check it out. Now, listen, I want to speak about this because Deval, I added this onto the list because it's almost like we've kind of mentioned about DC before, and they have a lot of misses. They do have
Mm,
some hits, and for me, Joker was kind of in its own kind of universe, and that was kind of with Joaquin Phoenix, and we mentioned Robert De Niro. They had that. That was kind of like a standalone movie that worked really well, and that was great. And then they decided to kind of bring in a new version or a new kind of actor to play Batman, Bruce Wayne. And there was this whole thing, right? Who's going to be the new Batman? Because Ben Affleck, he said no. He said, see you later. I'm not doing it anymore. And then the kind of casting was out there. And then we kind of realized, shit, it's going to be Robert Pattinson. And I was like, oh my gosh, what's going on over here? Robert Pattinson from, those vampire movies. Is this going to work out? And I got to say, I was mightily kind of impressed. I got to say, Matt Reeves, he did a great thing. He made it dark, he made it brooding, and Robert Pattinson didn't suck. That for me
mm,
was kind of
mm,
like the big
mm,
thing.
mm,
It's like he didn't suck. And when he's not Batman and he's being Bruce Wayne, yeah, you could say he's kind of doing an emo version of kind of like of it, and he doesn't look the
mm,
part just yet. But then again, what they're focusing in on isn't the kind of the Bruce Wayne that we know. You know, the kind of the playboy,
Yeah, yeah.
billionaire philanthropist.
Playboy,
He
playboy
hasn't got to
philanthropist.
yeah, he hasn't got to that yet. This is
Yeah,
early days. He's still messing up. He doesn't know how to communicate basically. And for me, man, they got right Batman. They got right what's her name? What
Catwoman,
was her
Zoe
name?
Kravitz.
Zoe Kravitz. I thought that was great. That whole kind of
Mm.
dynamic over there. They got the Riddler. You know, was it? Yeah, it was the Riddler, wasn't it? Yeah,
Yeah, yeah,
yeah. It was the Riddler. Kind of, and they made it dark. You
yeah. It
know,
was dark.
it was
Jeffrey
dark.
Wright was Commissioner Gordon. Colin Farrell was what he said.
Penguin.
Yeah, Penguin, but they called him Oz in it. He just looked so
Mm,
different. John Turturro. You have Andy Serkis in it. I mean, it was
yeah,
all right. You know, I got to
it
watch.
was
You know,
the
as it mentioning it, I need to see it again.
yeah. And
I
you
need
know
to
what
see
the
it
thing is,
again.
I'm not sure if it's out over there on Netflix in the UK, but over here it's
Mm.
out on Netflix.
Is it?
Yes. So I think
So
all the DC stuff, they
yeah.
here, especially here in Australia, they all come out on Netflix. They've got the rights to the
Ah.
DC stuff.
So if you've got a what's that thing, that internet thing called? The security
VPN.
thing, VPN, you can change it
Yeah.
to Australia and
You
then
can
get
change it to Australia and you can get
Australia
all of that
Netflix.
stuff. Yeah,
Ah,
yeah.
yeah, yeah,
So
yeah.
it's all
Okay.
decent. So yeah, so I put it on there because it's kind of it's standalone universe because it's not going to be connected to the what we're going to get, right?
DCEU. Mm.
Yeah.
No, no, no,
So
no.
it's not going to be connected to the James Gunn stuff.
Mm. No. Separate. It's
Mm,
to the side.
exactly to the side. So listen, if you haven't seen it, go check it out. I think you'll be surprised. And finally, in our movie highlight of 2022, let's just speak about this one. This came out of the blue. Well, actually, yeah, it came out of the blue for us because we
Mm.
knew it was kind of on the radar. It was there in the peripheral, round in the background. I heard about it. People were raving about it. Some Hollywood directors were speaking about it. Some Hollywood actors were speaking about it. And then at some point, Deval and I, we started speaking about it and we're like, oh, you know what? Let's watch it and let's review it. It was on Netflix. This is a kind of big budget Bollywood blockbuster, like Indian movie. This is called RRR, and it's like Rise. I don't even, you know, I can't even remember what it is. It's Rise,
Is it
Revolt.
Rise, Revolt, something else? I can't remember.
Exactly,
Yeah.
the three R's basically,
Yeah.
and it's kind of like
Revenge, something.
revenge, maybe, yeah, Rise, Revenge, or whatever, and that's not important. But what one thing that you got to kind of note here for this listener is it is absolutely balmy. The movie
Mm.
is got so much shit going on it. And like, you know, in a year where we had like Thor Love and Thunder, where we had the multiverse of madness, this movie took in shitloads of money at the box office worldwide. I'm talking about. It had people like
102
James
million
Gunn.
worldwide.
People like James Gunn were like, you know,
Mm.
they were raving about it, they were talking about it, and yeah, man, it's like I can't even. The plot is it takes place in during the colonial times. You
Yeah.
know, India is under British rule.
Mm.
There's a kid that's gone missing from a village, and one guy from the village, he's been sent out to find the kid. But then on the other side, there's a police officer who works, you know, for basically the British, and then he's been tasked to find the guy. And then
Mm.
somehow the worlds collide, and there's kind of like music. You know, it's a musical as well, by the way. There's so many things going on, Deval. I mean, I have a headache just talking about it.
And it's my first. Like, I've never seen a Bollywood movie before in my
Yeah,
life,
and
and this
loads
was
of
the
people hadn't.
first. Yeah, and this is my first watching like full from beginning to end,
Mm.
3 hours. I mean, 3 hours long. It was actually saying that
It's
it's
crazy.
actually it was still shorter than Avatar,
That's
by about
true.
10 minutes maybe.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was this film was just everything was dialed to 11. The
Yes.
action, the dancing, the effects, just things, physics. Throw it out the window. So just open a window, yeah,
Forget
get
about it.
physics, and just throw it out because it doesn't matter. Does not matter. The things that happen in this film is purely to entertain. And just
Yeah.
like you said, it did $102 million worldwide. it brought so many people into the Bollywood arena.
Mm,
Netflix on, they them getting this was just a killing.
yeah.
And yeah, for me, I mean, anything else this director does or these actors do, perhaps I'm going to give it another go. And
Mm.
it really looked at, it really seemed to be really a big hit for our YouTube channel as well. Got
Yeah,
us
oh, man.
quite a lot of attention. So maybe Bollywood is the way forward.
Yeah, exactly, mate. We got to try and watch another one of these movies. But listen, if kind of like a gist of the some of there's a bit in there where the guy he fights, like he wrestles with a tiger. There's a bit in there where the police officer he takes on like about 1,000 people. He
Yeah,
just like bashes them up.
the guy's
How
on
is
his
this even
shoulders
possible?
and he's jumping around with a guy on his shoulders because his legs are mashed, so he can't walk, but his arms are okay. So you got the guy on his shoulders using his arms, the guy at the bottom using his legs. Together they make one big person. They're jumping around, shooting bow and arrows, clubbing people. It's like it's just explosions in the background. The
Yeah.
guy's shirt's always off, his hair is all there, and his muscles and that, and it's a lot. And the bottom line is about friendship. It's about
Mm,
betrayal or so-called betrayal, and
yeah.
trying to working together to overcome the bigger enemy,
Mm,
at that time was the British Empire. And
yeah.
it's a very, very good film. It's very
Yeah.
much worth a watch.
Definitely. And
Definitely.
listen, if you got Netflix, go check it out. And like, and maybe listen, look, if you can't sit through a 3 hour movie, take it in chunks because
Yeah, yeah,
there's a lot
yeah.
that can like that happens and stuff like that. But
Mm,
definitely it's a movie, it's one of the highlights of 2022. And on our kind of like on a creative level for us, it was one of those episodes where it kind of boosted the numbers up for us a little bit
yeah, exactly,
on our YouTube channel. So listen,
exactly.
look, folks, that is a teaser, some highlights. If you want to go back and listen to those episodes, go
Mm,
to kind of your favorite podcast player, go check us out, and download one of those if you want to kind of get an in-depth. There's so many movies that we didn't speak about. For example, which were I still remember off the top of my head: Barbarian, Devour Smile.
oh, yes, yes, yeah, yeah, yeah.
Do you remember those
Smile.
kind of yeah?
Yeah,
Do you remember
yeah,
those ones? You
yeah.
reviewed Men. Was it Men? I think, which was like really really funny.
Yes,
Your
yeah.
review of Men, which was like great. Um, so yeah, so go back and kind of like download some of those previous ones. But listen, we're gonna kind of speak about new trailers, and this one, Deval, Knock on the Cabin.
Mm.
When is this coming out? Because I really want to see this.
This one, there's a new trailer for this one, and it's the film is coming out in February. And
Mm.
this one, Knock on a Cabin, it's M. Night Shyamalan, and it is 3rd of February, so early.
So
The new
yeah, a
trailer
month
gives
away.
a bit more details. Oh yeah, just a month away, and it's like it's
Mm.
all about choice. You
Mm.
need to choice. You need to choose to sacrifice someone, or a whole load of people are going to die.
Ah,
So do the needs of the many prevail over the needs of the few?
you
There was a time travel episode of X-Men with Cable
yes,
and Bishop, and that line with Apocalypse was in it. That line is so powerful, you
yeah,
know.
yeah,
And in this trailer, it shows that. So all I'm going to say, I'm going to not say too much, but this film looks like it could be a good comeback for M. Night Shyamalan.
yeah. Also, have you
Mm.
noticed um Dave Bautista? He's
He's
forget
gangster. He's an
wrestling.
actor. He's an
You
actor.
don't even need to say like he's just a
Yeah,
full on actor now.
he's an
From
actor.
from Glass Onion, like when I looked at Glass
Yeah.
Onion, I was like, shit. Every single movie that he's been in now, he's just getting better and better.
Mm, mm.
So I just think yeah, I think this is going to be great. So next month we'll obviously bring you a review of that one. Go check out the trailer. It's interesting. It looks great. On Anniversary Corner, we're pulling one back
Mm.
from 2002. And check this out. Deval recently watched this one. So
Just
from
recent,
20 years
yeah.
ago, yeah, 2002. This is Gangs of New York. Now, this is what Leonardo DiCaprio. We've got what was the
Cameron
name?
Diaz,
Cameron
Daniel
Diaz.
Day Lewis. You got John C. Riley.
Yes.
You got some people. Liam Neeson. You got Brendan Gleeson. You got Stephen Graham, the Scouser guy.
Scouse
He was
guy.
in Lock,
He's
Stock,
like,
and he was in the Kitchen film you saw. This is 20
yeah,
years ago. My man, he's been around.
he's
My
been
man has
around.
been around. You got the guy that was
Scorsese.
in Scorsese directed this. Yeah, you got the guy that's in The Wire, who was Angelo Barksdale, D'Angelo Barksdale, I think he was.
Oh my gosh, is he in
He's
this
in
as
this.
well?
Yeah, he's in this. But yeah,
Wow.
basically, this film is crazy. It's a long film though.
Mm,
It's 2 hours and
yeah.
45.
uh,
It's looking at the 1800s of New
yeah.
York when the Irish came in and all that. And there's different gangs from different parts of New York, and they all want dominion.
Yeah.
Daniel Day Lewis's character is like the king of New York. You might as well say he owns all the gangs and stuff, and he runs shit. But there's friction. There's lots of bloodshed in the first 5 minutes of the film. It's one of the
Yeah.
worst fights you'll see on telly
Mm,
on screen, and people just are dying left, right, and center. Leonardo
yeah.
DiCaprio's in this, as a young guy 20 years ago. He's he does really well in this film, and
Mm,
he's the son of one of the kings of New York, and he's got to
yeah.
sort of come through the ranks and all that. But yeah, this film, it's on Netflix. It's leaving. Oh, it's left Netflix. Sorry,
Oh shit.
it left on the 31st of December.
Damn. It left
So
yesterday. So
yeah, so you got
okay.
to catch it some other way. But
Yeah.
yeah, it's a decent film. I just thought I'd quickly mention it, and that was it.
Yeah,
Yeah,
no,
Gangs in New
no,
York, 20
brilliant.
years
Gangs
ago.
in New York is decent.
Yeah,
Yeah. So Scorsese and Leonardo DiCaprio, they've teamed up. I just realized. Yeah, they've done
yeah, they
quite
got
a few films
history.
together.
They got history. They got history. They got
Mm.
history.
They got it. Right. Okay. So listen, that is
Italian.
it for today.
There's one thing I want to mention before we go, just
Please
real
do.
quickly. And this is something Emmanuel put in our little group. But I want to quickly just blitz through what's coming out
Great.
in 2023. Just quickly
Oh,
blitz through it. Okay, January, we've got Megan, horror film about androids. We've got
yep.
February, Quantumania, Marvel. You got in February again, Cocaine Beer, some mad horror beer film.
Wow.
Creed in March. In March again, you got Scream, the new
Flipping
Scream.
six.
People
Yeah.
keep screaming, they're going to lose their voice. In March, you got Shazam, Ward,
Oh my
Fury the Gods.
gosh.
In March
Yep.
again, John Wick, Chapter 4.
Oh shit.
Dungeons
Yes.
and Dragons in March again, Evil Dead, April. Super Mario Brothers, that's in
Wow.
April. Guardians of the Galaxy in May. Fast 10 in May. In May
Oh
again, you've got The Little Mermaid. This is the one with the live action one with the sister, and everyone's complaining.
yes.
In
Yeah. Everyone
June,
complained about that.
you got Spider Man. That's the Into the Spider
Spider Verse.
Verse Part
Yep.
1, or Across the Spider Verse. In June, you got Transformers, Beasts. June again, you got The Flash, Multiverse. We'll see what happens with that one.
Yep.
Indiana Jones in June again. We got that. In July, we got Mission Impossible. This is the one that's getting done in 2 parts. We see with
Two
Tom Cruise
parts.
jumping off a
Yep.
cliff off a motorcycle. In July, we've got Barbie,
Oh yes.
Margot Robbie, and what's his name?
Oh, Ryan Gosling.
Ryan Gosling, who's was. In July, we've got Oppenheimer. That's the film I'm
Yes.
looking out for.
I'm looking
Oppenheimer
out for
in
that one.
July.
Yeah.
In July again, we've got the Marvels.
It's gonna be
In all,
explosive.
yeah, in October we've got Craven the Hunter. Got Aaron
Mm,
Taylor Johnson playing Craven the Hunter. Let's see what happens with that one. November we've got Dune, second part. The
mm,
first part a year ago now.
yep.
December we've got Willy Wonka. It's just called Wonka. Is
Oh,
he going to be a plonker? I don't know. December, we've got a new Ghostbusters. Didn't know that was happening.
didn't know that was
December,
happening.
Ghostbusters, and then to end the year so far that we've been told. Christmas Day, who's going to see that? But
Wow.
Aquaman 2 on
Oh
Christmas
shit. Yeah.
Day. So that's what 2023 is looking like. There'll be more films in the year that come out, obviously, but this is just a little
Huge.
snapshot. Yeah, I'll put this on Instagram
Wait,
so
that is
everyone can
huge.
see.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
actually decent. Actually, yeah, put that out on Instagram. So yeah, listen, look, that is it for now.
Hmm.
Catch us over kind of the next few weeks, whatever. We're going to be watching. We're going to be reviewing.
Yep.
We're going to be doing the stuff for
Yep.
you.
Exactly. We've got a
Um,
week off next week, so there's no show next
yes,
week. We're both on holiday,
yep, we
and
are.
then we'll come back the week after. So enjoy
Refreshed.
yourselves. Exactly.
Yep. Take it easy,
There you
folks.
go. All right. Peace out. Happy New Year again.